Hello, boys and girls. You survived the first week of remote learning. Very exciting. So, I just want to give a shout out to you guys for being so awesome and completing your work for this week. And I also want you to let your parents know that Ms. Dinsmore, Ms. Sullivan, Ms. Tinetti, and Ms. Chiazza are very grateful for all their patience and hard work too. We all did it. We survived. Now we'll continue it next week, and hopefully next week will be a little bit easier and smoother. So if, again, as always, you have any questions, you let us know. We are going to start off with page 20, and we will have some questions attached. So we are on chapter 2. Give my regards to Clark Poindexter. Larry Dunn was the king of the kindergarten to 4th grade where I went to school at Clark Elementary. Clark Elementary. He was king because he was a lot older than anyone else and twice as strong as the rest of us. He was stronger because he was almost full grown and he flunked some grade 2 or 3 times. He was the third oldest kid at Clark. The only ones older than him and stronger than him were Byron and Bubhead, who were in the 6th grade and who also flunked some grade at least once. We weren't sure because it was something that Mama and Dad didn't talk about. Larry Dunn was the king of the kindergarten to 4th grade because Byron didn't care about them. Larry was the king of Clark, but Byron was God. It seemed like that would make me a prince or a real strong angel or something. But it didn't work that way. I was just another 4th grade punk. I guess having school God as my brother did give me some kind of special rights, but not a whole bunch. It helped me with stupid stuff, like the time I found a dollar bill and got too excited and was crazy enough to show it to Larry Dunn. I know this was a big mistake about a second before he stuck his hand out and said, "Let me see it." What could I do? "Kenny," he said, "where did you find this buck?" "Outside the school over by Kenilworth." Larry turned my dollar over and over, and I started getting nervous. "You know what, Kenny?" "What?" I held my breath. "This is some real strange stuff, but I lost 50 cents over in Kenilworth yesterday, and I bet my 50 cents got hooked up with someone else's 50 cents and made this here buck." Phew, I let my breath go, smiled and nodded. We went to the store to get change, and Larry Dunn got back the 50 cents he lost, and I got to keep the other 50 that got hooked up with Larry's. I knew if I wasn't for Byron being my big brother, Larry would have said something like, "Since my 50 cents found this other 50 cents and they hooked up to make this here buck, I'm going to keep this whole thing. You know the rules. Finders keepers, loser weepers." Having this school God as my relative helped in some ways too. I had 2 things wrong with me that would have gotten me beat up and teased a lot more than I did if it hadn't been for Bai. The first thing was because I loved to read. People thought I was real smart, teachers especially. Teachers started treating me different than other kids when I was in 1st grade. At first, I thought it was cool for them to think I was smart, but then I found out it made me enemies with some of the other kids. But when I was in 2nd grade, Miss Henry used to take me to different classrooms and have me read stuff out of the Bible or newspaper in front of other kids. This was a lot of fun until I started looking up from what I was reading and noticed that while Miss Henry and the other teachers were smiling a mile a minute, all the kids had their faces twisted up or were looking at me like I was a 6-legged dog. 2 years ago, Miss Henry took me to Mr. 5th grade class. Mr. Was the toughest teacher in the school, and just being in front of him was kind of scary. He looked down at me and said, "Good morning, Mr. Watson. I hope you are in a good form today." I just nodded at him because I wasn't sure what that meant. "Don't be nervous, Kenny," Miss Henry said. "Mr. would like you to read a few passages from Langston Hughes." She handed me a book and said, "You wait here while we introduce you to the class." Man, some of the time I wish I was as smart as these teachers thought I was, because if I had been, I would have dropped that book and run all the way home if I'd been smart enough to figure out what was going to happen next. So we learned a lot about the different characters, and I want you to keep it in mind when you're answering these questions. Remember to use wrap. Just reminding you one last time, restate, answer, prove. With 2 details, remember to capitalize your letters, add periods, and best of luck.